Welcome to Magic Hour. I'm your host, Paul Chappell, and today we're going to take a look at Tom Clancy's Without Remorse, a movie on Amazon Prime starring Michael B. Jordan and a few other people like Guy Pearce, Jodie Turner-Smith, Jamie Bell. Movie didn't have too many stars, and I don't think it really needed to. In fact, at some point in the movie, you realize that who the villain is because they have a high-profile actor. And there's a lot of things about this movie that was predictable. Let me just go ahead and say that. I hate to say it because I like Michael B. Jordan. But yeah, this movie felt like it should have been made in the 90s. It had a plot straight from the 90s, back when the Soviet Union fell, and a lot of people in the intelligence community was trying to find their place in the world, and we started having these conspiracy novels come out about the CIA. So it's one of those movies, it felt out of place, out of time. They set up Russia as the bad guy in the movie, and I just felt like is Russia really the bad guy anymore? I thought our focus was more on China in this modern day and age. But I think they had to use Russia because in the opening of the movie, they're doing an operation in Syria. And we know that Russia has their hand in Syria and has been backing the government there against the rebels. So it kind of made sense for them to have to use Russia because China, I can't think of any kind of war anywhere in the world that China is an active participant. So I see why they use Russia. The other thing I would say was kind of head scratching is the fact that I don't even know why they called this movie Without the Remorse. I looked up the book, and in the book is pretty much about Vietnam. Adrian has a Vietnam vet, and he's fighting drug dealers and pimps and all this other stuff. It has no relation whatsoever to the movie that we got. So the only thing similar between the two was, they use the same names of the characters. But if you look at the original novel, it actually took place in the 70s. So that was kind of weird. I'm not a big fan of Tom Clancy. He was really big back in the 80s. He's got to be one of the top writers of all time. Most successful, let's say. Which is ironic because he's really a terrible writer. I think when he started to write, one of the reasons why his work was so popular is because, first of all, it was pre-internet. He was able to get all these details about the military. Today, you would just go into a Google, like let's say you looked up something about the Black Hawk helicopter or the Apache helicopter or the Patriot missile. You could just do a quick search in Google and get all the information you want. Back then, he was like really one of the only sources of a lot of military technology. And he famously was able to get all these little interviews that military people had done in this magazine and this newspaper. He was able to pretty much crowdsource all this information and create this coherent picture of what the capabilities of our military actually was and put them in novel form. That was really what his hook was. But he was not a great author by any stretch of the imagination. I actually read two of his novels. I read The Hunt for Red October and the Patriot Games. Now, another thing he did very well was the fact he came up with these high concept ideas. Like The Hunt for Red October is a perfect example. But overall, he was not a good writer. Most of what we know about him in modern age is based on those video games, Ghost Recon, I think Rainbow Six. But I never played any of these games. But if you're under the age of 30, you probably know of Tom Clancy based on one of these games. The Division, Splinter Cell series, all those video games were inspired in part by his characters in his high concept novels. But like I said, he was not a great writer. So let's just get into the movie. I'll just go through a couple things I liked about the movie. The first is which is Michael B. Jordan. I think he's perfect for this role. I never doubted that he could do some of the things you see him doing in the movie. He's playing a Navy SEAL, and he's just ripped. He's just as ripped as he was in Black Panther. So I thought some of the stuff I saw him do was believable, just because he's ripped, just because he's an intelligent actor. And yeah, so I bought him as John Kelly. He's John Kelly in this movie, not John Clark, which he becomes. Well, just see the movie. You'll see what happens. The only other good thing I will say about this movie is I felt like the action was not at all fake. You know how you see some action movies, it's like no one guy could kill the whole Russian mob or a Mexican cartel or whatever it is you see in these movies today. Everything in this movie was done with the help of a team. So even though Michael Jordan is playing this badass, he's not doing anything alone. He has a team, and just about every time they have an operation, people die. And that's how it would pretty much happen in real life. So, and I think that's another one of the things that is appealing about Tom Clancy is the fact that so much of what you read in his novels is real. So he was famous for doing that. But that's about it. That's the only two things I can say that I liked about the movie. Nothing in the movie was particularly original. I felt like I had seen a lot of these scenes done better in other movies. Like I said, it felt like a movie out of the 90s. I don't know. It's one of those movies, if you've seen the trailer, they pretty much showed you some of the best things about the movie. I know there's a scene where Michael B. Jordan's, he sets a car on fire and he gets inside to interrogate a guy. And there's a lot of emphasis on torture in this movie too, which is why I say it belongs solidly in the 90s, because in the 90s, you had all these movies where people would get tortured. Bad guys mostly would get tortured. And almost without fail, they would give up a piece of information that the main character needed. And the bad guys almost never lied about anything, which is, if you do any kind of research on torture, you will find out that it's not really a reliable way to get information from people, because people most of the time they will just lie and tell you whatever you want to hear just so the torture stops. So I was kind of disturbed that device was used in this movie at least once. Actually, I think it was used more than once, but only one scene it really advanced the plot any. But yeah, so that was kind of disturbing, and that's pretty much it. I can't say a lot about this movie. It was a retread. It was not original. Like I said, if you like Michael B. Jordan, watch this movie. If you're not really a big fan of him, I would just skip it. It didn't feel like a TV movie. I wouldn't go as far as to say that, even though it is, debuting on a streaming service. I would give it probably a 2 out of 5. Yeah, so that's about it. That is with Tom Clancy's Without Remorse, playing now on Amazon Prime. Look it up if you want to watch it. That's all I got for today. I'd like to thank my subscribers and encourage you. Hit that subscribe button. Give me a like. Give me a comment down below. Let me know what you think. If you're already a subscriber, ring that bell so you know when my next video drops. And I will see you when I see you. Thanks for watching.